Conrad Wilkshire is the GM of Rural at Property Brokers. He joins us now. Conrad, nice to talk. How are you?
Good, Dom. Yeah, good. Good Easter break, and it's good to be underway again.
Excellent. Now, the outlook at the moment in terms of the autumn season, how do you assess things at the moment?
Still very strong. And in fact, we went out with our autumn program of dairy and sheep and beef listings up and down the country, and there's been some really good inquiry on that. And interestingly, it's been a very kind autumn season for most provinces, other than obviously Southland. It's been, very dry, and paradox on the east coast, it's been super wet, which is almost the opposite to what would typically be expected. So they've had a very trying time there on the east coast, Wairoa and Gisborne particularly. But, putting that aside, generally speaking, we continue to be surprised at the strong interest to actually conclude a deal before the end of this current season. So, and that demand is there, and we have genuine buyers with inquiry along those lines. So, the Hill Country market is about 30% up on the same time last year. And there's some question marks around some of the ETS policy settings and the like, but there's still strong farmer demand out there that we're seeing very genuinely. We've got some excellent listings that reflect that. And then equally on the dairy, it's significantly up, particularly in the likes of the Waikato and Canterbury, and we're seeing some good offerings coming forward in Taranaki too. So, I suppose if I was to stand back from it all, is those that want to maybe de-risk next season, or they've had a change in staffing policy or whatever might have transpired, and they're looking at their options for next season and contemplating whether they take a shot at a sale. It's been a kind autumn for most parts, and we are definitely able to get something underway at relatively short notice.
So with the dairy outlook, you mentioned there's still strong sales, and it's still not too late to market those dairy properties?
No, definitely not. And, look, we can get over all the properties. It's not wet. Pasture conditions are good. And, it's been a reasonably favourable season. So, on the whole, there's nothing stopping us getting in front of the market and actually putting some opportunities in front of buyers.
Very good. Conrad Wilkshire from Property Brokers. As always, good to get your thoughts, your expertise, and we will talk again in a few weeks.
Take care. And, congratulations on what has been a great new show format for you.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And it's good to have you a part of it, Conrad. Appreciate it.
To get you on the show and run some things by you. Firstly, what are the top tips you'd give to drivers on the road this weekend?
Well, I think the main thing is we all are going to be expecting that there's going to be a lot more people out moving around the country for the long weekend. So probably the first thing I'd say to people is book your trip in advance. So plan it out, give yourself heaps of time to get to your destination. Make sure that you're having regular breaks if you're travelling long distances, because people do get fatigued. And probably the other big thing is just to be patient with other road users. We know the roads are going to be busy. So people will be making mistakes. So ensure things like, giving yourself enough distance when you're following behind people. And then the basic tips that we always say, wear your seatbelt, stick to the speed limit, and don't drink and drive.
Working in road policing, what do you wish more drivers knew?
I think the big thing is people just need to appreciate that these serious crashes can happen to anybody on any road. I think some people become a little desensitised. You see, the fatal crashes play out on the news, and a lot of people always sort of think it's going to happen to somebody else or it's happened to somebody else, but these are just normal Kiwis travelling around on roads, and they get caught up in these horrendous crashes, sometimes with fatal consequences, other times with serious injuries that will last a lifetime. So, it's about us all playing our part, and every time we get into a car, the driver needs to take responsibility, not only for themselves, but their passengers and other road users. So that would be probably the big thing, is it can happen to anybody.
Bruce, what would you say to those who think just going a little bit faster on the open road is okay, or for those who say, look, I know these roads?
Yeah, we often hear that.
Yeah.
We often hear people say, I live in this community, I know these roads really well. What I would say is, look, any extra speed that you are doing on the road can have tragic consequences. Unfortunately, we see it play out sometimes on a daily basis, to be fair. And it is those situations where somebody's gone a little bit quick around a particular corner that they've maybe have driven through multiple times and end up upside down in a ditch, or lose control, cross onto the centre line and collide with an oncoming vehicle. So, look, it's just not worth it. For that extra 30 seconds you might get to your destination quicker, it is not worth putting yourself or other road users or your family that are in the car with you at risk.
Why do you think drivers don't follow the rules?
I think there's some complacency, Mark. I think people, genuinely make mistakes. The phone will ring in the car, so they pick it up. They're distracted for a couple of seconds, and unfortunately that will end in tragic consequences. People are just moments in attention, go through a red light. So a lot of the times I believe it's just genuine mistakes that are occurring, and that's why we constantly remind people to just be paying attention while they are travelling around. Unfortunately, there are other people that, just decide that they can break the rules, be it, drinking too much alcohol before they're driving, or, driving really dangerously. So I think it's a combination, but I genuinely think most people out on the roads are trying to do the right thing, and it's just about having that conversation with your family and friends about taking basic precautions. If you're going out for a few drinks out with friends and family, well, how are you going to get home? Who's going to be the sober driver? And if that plan falls over, what's your backup plan?
Bruce, for our listeners tuning in at the moment, how can they help? How can we all help to be safer on the roads this weekend?
Well, I think the big thing is stick to the basic safety messages that we and our partners constantly put out about, wear your seatbelt. As I say, don't drink and drive, stick to the speed limits and put away those distraction devices. If people do that as a starting point, we've got a significant opportunity to not have anybody killed or seriously injured over this weekend or any time. Be patient with each other. Be mindful that the roads are going to be busy, so don't get frustrated. It's not going to make your journey any faster. Take regular breaks and just really enjoy another weekend out across New Zealand and get to your destination safe.
Bruce, thank you for your time. That's Bruce O'Brien, their Assistant Commissioner.
Most other appliances come with a 2-year warranty, but not Palmco. They stand by their appliances with a 7-year warranty. That's like 1,825 more dishwasher cycles. Quality, affordability, 7-year warranty. Palmco. By Kiwis, for Kiwis. A very special offer from Life Pharmacy this long weekend. Get 15% off top beauty and fragrance brands and 20% off Lancome. Plus earn points every time you shop, in-store and online. Only at Life Pharmacy. Ends Monday.
Right, let's have a look at what's happening in the rural real estate market where, we were talking last time we talked to Conrad Wilkshire, GM of Rural Property Brokers. We were talking about dairy land going from 28,000 a hectare through to 42,000 a hectare. Let's find out what's happening now. Conrad, good morning.
Yeah, look, thanks, Hamish. Good morning, Dom. It's good to be on the show. And, rural real estate is always a busy time. I think you listeners might not appreciate, but about a third of all rural sales actually happens through the autumn. And in fact, season on season in the autumn, we do about anywhere between 25 and 30% of our sales. So, it's even with some indifferent season down south, and it's been rather dry down there in quite a remarkable way. And then you've also got the seasonality up on the East Coast where those poor guys have been hammered with the rains and had a very difficult time. But despite all that, we are still seeing a lot of inquiry coming forward, and it is typical of this time of year.
So what are the numbers looking like in terms of prices and the number of farms that are being sold coming to the market? Yeah,
look, it's firming year on year, and if we have a look at total sales as we work through the season, you look at sheep and beef sales there on a comparative basis by number of sales, it's operating annualised at similar levels. But what we're seeing is prices firming. Yeah, and also demand for quality finishing properties, and that can include dairy systems, but actually that may be deconverted, but actually properties that are actually in sheep and beef production now that have significant area of flat land and have good production history and good soil types, good fencing, well set up for finishing, they are really sought after at the moment and commanding good premiums.
Conrad, is that somebody taking a punt on the future, or is it because people believe that the numbers that are strong now will continue to be so?
I think flat ground overall is going to be viewed as being at a premium in terms of alternative land use options and versatility of land use. I think that is definitely part of it, but also you look at the premiums paid for a finished product, and that's been that way for a while now, and the balance sheets of the hill country pastoral businesses are in good heart,
yep.
And they're looking at their options. And so if they're going to go long, do they buy another station next door, or do they buy a property that can actually add value to the station they've already got? And sometimes it's both, but I think there is a really strong demand for quality finishing country where they can take their product right through, and often in a different climate zone to the one they're operating, to be able to manage the volatility of climate. And I think that's a big factor. I really do.
Yeah. Conrad, one of the things in the last, I guess over the period of about 6 months that really stood out for me was the number of dairy farms that were being sold, but that at least at that stage, this is probably 2 or 3 months ago, 50% of them weren't actually staying in dairying. Is that still a trend that's continuing?
I think you need to circle around. If you look at Southland, Canterbury, Taranaki, Waikato, typically those farms are going dairy to dairy.
Yep.
But outside of those four, if you like, pillars of the dairy sector, and there's a lot of strong dairying around the country outside of those regions, but there's also a lot of very strong sheep and beef production systems as well. So that the competition for land in those areas outside of the, if you like, the dairy strongholds is there. Southland is a bit different, obviously, because you've got very strong sheep and beef production systems down there. But if you take the Waikato, Taranaki, it's heavily dominated by dairy. And similarly, in Canterbury, you've got arable farm systems and dairy systems dominating the majority of the flats. So that's... Yeah, that is definitely the case where you are seeing demand coming there. But outside of those areas, we're definitely seeing that demand from beef production systems, particularly wanting to be able to take stock forward and hedge the climate we spoke about before.
Okay, the property brokers team, they're pretty busy right across the country with the rural boys then.
Yeah, we got our rural outlook there. It went out to about 70,000 plus postal boxes around the country, and we've had a really good response to that promotion. And vendors, some really good quality listings coming forward from literally from the far north to the deep south. And so, and I think it's always a difficult time of year for vendors as to what they might be doing if they've made a decision about the next steps and they're looking for a strategy to either consolidate their holdings or exit their business, then as to whether you do it there in the autumn or the spring. And a lot of it sometimes comes down to labour and what the labour arrangements are. But there's no doubt we're actually working on concluding a number of listings at the moment that actually have come to the market very smartly and have been sold very quickly with strong buyer interest. So there is still an opportunity to make the most of the season, even with obviously labour management decisions having to be made. So that's all part of the mix, as you know, Hamish. Yeah.
Is it newcomers coming into farming, or is it traditional farmers, like you said, the high country farm buying the flat land?
Yeah, I think there's definitely room for new entrants to come in, and we are seeing that particularly with smaller holdings, so under 100 hectares. And there's been, I think, quite a windfall for people who might have had a 5 to 20 hectare lifestyle block, and they've been able to sell that for a really, really good profit, and actually apply that to scaling up their business and getting a much more economic, more viable operation with all the tax efficiencies that go with that. So there's definitely that market has been operating, and that's been very apparent this season. But if you're talking the large scale operations, when you're talking $8, $9, $10 million for a station these days, the market does thin out, and you probably do need to come from a strong base to be able to make that work, and that's reality, and I don't see that reality changing anytime soon.
Rightio, great stuff, Conrad. Before you go, everything good? What, you good in the Manawatu? What's that part of the country like at the moment?
Well, always good in the Manawatu. We've had a little bit of rain
today,
which we actually desperately need. Though not many people around the country will probably believe that, but we actually have been quite dry here for a little bit. So welcome rain, and I think for many parts of the country, a bit more moisture will be very welcome indeed, because soil temperature will start to drop shortly, and we'll start to run out of growing days, unless you're in the mighty Waikato or something like that.
Yeah.
What a wonderfully learned conversation that I've just borne witness to, gentlemen. Well done. That was outstanding. It was really very, very good. I just sat back and had my fourth cup of coffee for the morning and just listened in there. It was it was great.
All I can say is that from Conrad's end of from being in the Bachelor of Agricultural top 5% of the class in 1985, being interviewed by the bottom 5%. I just hope that Conrad thinking, gee, McKay's lifted his game in the last 37 years.
I don't think you were in the same results class as that, because I don't remember seeing those results flow through, Hamish. I think that performance might be a tad overstated for any of my good mates listening in. Yeah. But
well, you weren't one of those guys who were fortunate enough to have access to the notes from the class the year before. So you and I actually had to do the hard yards.
No.
Yeah, we won't name anybody. Yeah. Good stuff.
But, no, it's all good, and good to hear from you, Dom. And so, new show format working well for you. So well done.
Yeah, good
Thank
stuff.
you. Yeah,
Fantastic.
it's good stuff. Thanks.